We are here today to go over Kula and Kula AV. We've got both systems with us. I'm Trevor Sword, Product Manager for the Kula and Kahuna range of switches. Behind me is Jonathan Bloor. He's a freelance vision mixer TD. He's worked on all kinds of things, tennis, NFL, and he's here to show you how the different features of the switcher. We will just quickly run through a small PowerPoint presentation. Won't take too long on it because that's not the interesting bit, but just give you an idea of the product. Just share my screen with everyone. So a quick overview of Kula and Kula AV. So what is Kula? So Kula is a 2RU production switcher, but has an awful lot of power in it. Features of much larger switches inside the frame, but it's ideal for small in-house operations, sports, house of worship. It's a very compact, powerful switcher. You can build great effects with it because of the amount of keys and DD inside the box. It's got very flexible input and output architecture, which I'll quickly go over. And because of our format capabilities, you don't have to worry about sources in and out of the switcher. And it's very easy and simple to get up and running. And obviously an attractive price point. So as I say, it's all built around a 2RU mainframe. We'll go over the I/O in a moment. You get some bi-directional ports as well as inputs and outputs. You can have SD, HD, 3G. You can run it in UHD. You've got 12 gig SDI and IP versions as well. And we recently launched the new AV version, which has the audio mixer built inside. So updates to the actual switcher itself. So we increased the clip stop to 32 gig recently as an option. We released the Kula AV. We'll go through what MSP means, but it's our software control surface. For the IP versions, we've just recently added MOS ISO 4 and ISO 5 support. We're launching Kula AV as an MSP bundle without a hardware control surface as well. And I'll explain what MEG is. It's an Maverick encoded GUI hardware device. So Kula AV, we'll just touch on that because that would be the product that we would have shown at NAB this year. Call it an all-in-one production switcher because you get everything you need to create the show. So you get your video mixer, your audio mixer, you've got multi-viewer, we've got a graphics package with RT software, and we've got Format Fusion 3, which is our technology that allows you to have any format in and out of the switcher. And the package comes with 19-inch 1ME control panel and Nav Audio fader panel, which we have here to show you. And as I say, we were launching the Kula AV MSP package. Basically removes the requirement for the hardware panel, allows you to run purely from your laptop or PC. So you just get the 2RU mainframe, all the features of Kula AV with a software control surface. So the different mainframe options, we've got 3 SDI frames, 1, 2, 3 MEs, and the Kula AV. We've got a 12 gig frame and an IP frame, so just run through those a bit more. So the 3 gig frames, you have a 1ME SDI frame, 18 in, 6 out, 6 bi-directional. As you can see, you can do SD, HD, 1080p, 3 gig in all those formats. The 2 or 3 ME version, basically you can run it as 2 or 3 MEs because of sub-MEs inside the switcher. That can be run as I say, 2 or 3 MEs or as a 1ME UHD switcher. It's obviously based on, this one's based on the 3 gig frame. And you get, in HD, working like this, you get 36 inputs, 12 outputs, and 6 bi-directional ports. Kula AV frame is based on a 3G frame. It's slightly different I/O because of the way the internal workings are different to the standard Kula. But you get 40 inputs, 12 outputs, and 2 bi-directional ports. And again, you can run it in the different formats. The 12 gig version you can run it as a 1ME UHD switcher, or you can change it to be a 2 or 3 ME HD switcher. In UHD operation, you get 10 inputs, 3 outputs, and 2 bi-directional ports. And in HD operation, you get 40 inputs, 12 outputs, and 2 bidirectional ports. And then there's our IP frames. So you can get a 1ME IP frame. The numbers 18 in, 6 out in IP, and then you still get the bidirectional ports at the bottom of the frame. But on the IP frame, you get one 12 gig BNC input or 4 3 gig BNC inputs, 2 bidirectional HD ports. And the larger Kula IP frame, again, can be 2 or 3 MEs in HD or 1 ME in UHD. And the numbers are there, 9 IP UHD inputs, 3 IP outputs. And you get the same 12 gig input or 3 gig inputs and 2 bidirectionals. And if you're operating in HD, 36 in, 12 out, the same 12 gig or 3 gig bidirectional. So we have quite a few frames. The frames themselves are not modular, so Kula is a product that if you were to order the 1ME IP frame, you can't actually upgrade that to a 2 or 3 ME later on. So, but it's a bit of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to a product because it covers so many things, especially with the 2 or 3 ME versions. So when we go to the panels, you can have, so the 1ME 19 inch is a rack mount panel designed for that reason. The 16 crosspoint panel, you can get 1, 2 or 3 ME versions, and you don't have to have a 3 ME panel with the 3 ME Kula. You can run sub-MEs or have smaller panels, so you can have any size panel you like. And there's a 24 button version as well. And on the right, there are K-Touch touchscreen, which uses the multi-view inside the switcher and allows you to have a simple control panel using the touchscreen interface. And the new MSP, which we'll show you, is our new software user interface. It's just a picture of a standard panel. As you can see, it's a production switcher panel, program preset row, ME1, an area of delegation that I can select multiple keys or utility buses or auth buses from a selection here, a row of macros, key area and T-bar area, and then key controls, joystick, and then repeated above with slightly different, an offset T-bar, so your hand open up the T-bar. But we'll run through the actual panel itself. And the Kula panel, because it works with Kahuna and the Maverick control service, you can add Maverick modules to the Kula panel. So if there's a panel I particularly like, so for the Kula AV, it has the audio failure panel attached to it. So I can add any number of, as you can see, up to 4 or up to 8. Just expands the panel, adds the desired things I want on the panel. So as I mentioned on the mainframe, this is just a bigger picture to give you an idea of how the mainframes are laid out. So the right-hand side here are all my inputs, whether that's HD or 12 gig. This is a 12 gig one, so I get silver BNCs denoting the 12 gig. Left, I get my outputs. Down the bottom, I get the bidirectional ports, reference ports, my GPI, GPOs, or AES, depending on which mainframe I have. My connections to the control panel or network, and dual power supplies. So the Kula we'll show you, but is a very powerful little mixer. So I get 4 keys and a mav trans per ME. So each keyer is linear, luma, and chroma, and each keyer has got its own 2D DBE. And I can split those keys into dual tile mode, meaning I can put 2 boxes on the screen from a single key. So therefore, I'm now getting 8 key layers plus the mav trans from an ME. That's 9 key layers. And on top of that, I've got 4 floating DSKs that I can assign to any output. So I've got an awful lot of keying power inside the ME. Each ME board comes with a sub-ME. I can either use that and tie them together, as I'll show you, to create a third ME, or I can use them on a single ME and have extra keyers, 2.5 dB size, that increase my production power. forgot I made it a bit bigger. So it just makes it a bit bigger to see. So I've got key 1 up here, key 2, key 3. You get the idea. You get dual boxes from each of the keys, and I've got DSKs on top of both. The DSKs themselves, they are separate from the MEs and sub-MEs, so I can use them wherever I want to. And then downstream ME, which I've just explained, has 9 keys. And you can use them for an aux mix if there's no sub-ME. And the dual tile mode is available on those as well, so each DSK can provide 2 boxes. The sub-MEs, so I say each ME board has a sub-ME, and there are 2 sub-MEs in the 2ME cooler, 1 sub-ME, 1 ME cooler. So on the 2ME cooler, I add 2 sub-MEs, or I use them to create the 3rd ME. And it has an AV background, linear lumen chroma key, and the keyer has a 2.5D with dual tile mode, so I can get perspective on that keyer. So the Format Fusion 3 inside the switcher, which I'll explain in a moment, you can either have the sub-ME or you can use it for format conversion. So there's a choice. You can decide how you want to use the switcher. There's full RGB, YEB, bleed color correction on the sub-ME. So Format Fusion 3, we're quite famous for this now, but it allows us to have SD, HD, 3G sources, and on the same bank, with different outputs and different formats. So you can produce a show and have a HD and SD and a 3G version of the same show, just using up 3 BNCs in the back. There are 8 channels of Format Fusion 3 available in Kula. And it's available on the 1 and 2 ME system because the 3 ME system, you are using that resource to create the 3rd ME. But we'll show you that. The 2.5D DVE on the sub-ME, X and Y position, perspective, squeeze, zoom. So everything you see there, the 2.5D DVE. Bit of a sort of summary of the total number of keys. 2 and 3, as you see, you get 32 total key layers, so I can put all those on the screen. If I turn it into a UHD switcher, I've got 6 key layers. The Kula AV, slightly different numbers just because of the architecture inside, slightly different, but still got 17 key layers from a single ME switcher. That's got the audio mixer as well. So Kula's got its own multi-view built in, 4 heads and 16 tiles. I can use the UMD inside the window, I can resize the windows. Jonathan will show you that, it's quite good. And the ME2, if I have a 2 ME switcher and I use the sub-MEs to create the 3rd ME, I can actually use ME2 as a second multi-viewer, so I still get a 2 ME switcher and I can have 28 tiles and 8 heads. Clip store and still stores inside the Kula is taken from his bigger brother in the Kula. 16 gigabyte, 2 minutes, upgradable to 4 minutes. 10 channels. Well, that 10 channels is not the real number because each channel can have subclips in it. So I can put 32 subclips in a channel, so I can add numerous clips or stills to a single channel, and they are instantly accessible through macros. I can play them independently. I can import and export the clips and stills from a USB device through over the network or using our software. We have a bit of software called KWatch that basically will allow your graphics department to drop a file into the PC, and it will see it, convert it, and send it over the network to your switcher. And Kula Manager allows you to keep multiple frames tied together with the same information. And the clip store has editing for both video, key, and audio. So Kula in 4K, there are 2 options. You either go for the 4K switcher 12 gig version, giving you 12 gig I/O in 1 ME, or you can go for the HD 2 ME version and use that as a UHD when you need it. with 3 gig player. We have got a ton of third-party integration in Kula because we've taken it from the big brother. Ignite is in there, so lots of control, router control. VDC and AMP covers an awful lot of stuff. We don't generally name the products we're controlling, we generally just have the product in there, the protocol in there. We've recently done integration with Chiron graphics and RT software graphics, and we've put a new web API interface for our live touch replay device, so we can get mini picks from that and control that. The multi-viewer, we can grab labels from external routers. We can export UMDs as well. And we have audio control, so we've got the audio mixer now inside the Kula AV, but we can also control external audio devices. We can control robotic cameras. It's a very powerful bit of kit for controlling third-party devices. The Kula AV, I touched on this bit already, but it's basically an all-in-one production switcher with multi-viewer, format fusion, RT graphics, and the audio mix. So the difference between Kula AV and Kula is the package is everything you see. There's no options for you to decide. You might want to use format fusion 3, you might not. They all come as part of the package. The audio mixer itself, it's got this 80 by 56 audio mixer, and it should open up new markets for Kula AV because we're now allowing you to cut along the bus, for instance, with the audio follow video mode. So if you do that in a normal switcher, if you hot cut along the bus, you might get pops and bangs because it's not an audio mixer. But now you can do a very quick crossfade as you're cutting along the bus and do audio follow video. We've also got audio routing, clean and quiet audio switching. So a single operator can now have complete control of the audio mixer and the vision mixer. So the panel itself, as I explained, you actually get the 1ME 19-inch panel as part of the package, and the MAV audio fader module with 8 motorized faders on it. The picture's a bit blurry, but we've got the panel here. It's a 1ME 19-inch rack version. You get the same features as you have on the 2ME. Kula AV frame slightly different I/O because you've now got 4 AES pairs in and out, and the I/O is slightly different, 40 by 12, but basics are the same. And this is a 3 gig based switch for Kula AV. Left this slide in there just because to explain that the actual single ME is the same as a single ME in Kula, so you get the same keys, the same dual tile. You get the same DSKs as well, so you've got those 4 DSKs as well on the Kula AV. The audio mixer is where it starts to get obviously different from the standard Kula. The audio inputs you see there, 60 channels program, preset, all the audio utilities 1 and 2, AES and clip store, and you've got the audio outputs as well as the metering. We'll show you that in a moment. You can group the audio buses. You can add the audio into groups and assign those groups to the faders. I counted the number of faders on the software panel today, something like 92 faders on there for different inputs, outputs, groups. And you can assign those to either the GUI, to operate from the GUI, or onto the mechanical faders themselves. Got clean and quiet audio switching, the audio follow video mode, and loudness metering as well. So the RT software is worth just mentioning. It comes as part of the package with Kula AV. It's available on other switches as well. It's slightly different to other graphics packages in that the RT software publishes the graphics direct to either to the hard drive on the switcher or direct to the clip store. So once you've made your changes on your external software, you publish them to the switcher and they're directly available in the clip store. You can just punch your key up, you'll have the updated graphics. Format Fusion 3, again, is the same resource. Kula AV MSP, this is the new package we're offering, so you get the same power of Kula AV with the software control panel, which we will show you because that's a very powerful tool all by itself. And there's a few lists of people that use Kula's been very popular and it's used basically all over the globe. So I'll stop sharing that, and what I'll do is I'll pass over to Jonathan. Unless there's any questions. Yes, it's being recorded. Bi-directional ports. They are. It's just separate to the I/O of the switcher, but they can be set to inputs or outputs. Jonathan can show you that in menus. So across the different mainframes, some of them have 6, some of them have 2. Just depends on the mainframe you choose. Okay. So, which what do you want? Which camera do you want?
We're going to go to this one. So we go to this.
Yep.
Okie dokie. Actually, no. Let's go to the other one. Let's go to the panel.
Yeah.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're joining us in the world. Hopefully you can see we've got the control panel here in front of me. Just a little bit of an overview on the control panel. The control panel just connects to the mainframe via an Ethernet cable, so it's a very simple setup to be able to configure. So here I've got the a 2ME panel. As I say, you can have an option of a 3rd stripe as you need to. Standard program row available, preview row as you're used to. If you've got limited space, you can still have a 2 or a 3ME system, but you can also have that available and just change which ME you're controlling directly from here. So just because you purchase a 1ME panel does mean you can actually control all the MEs inside the Kula you have. So you can choose the size of the panel that fits your requirement and your application. From the panel, we have just a monitor output which comes over an HDMI cable. So it's a real-time operating system. You can just connect that to a standard screen. It could be a touch screen, or it can just be a standard screen with a mouse and keyboard. So you've got control about how the interface works, how big the screen is you want to operate to control the menu system. So it's a nice, easy to use menu system available on the screen that makes it really useful for doing your production. So as you saw an overview of the panel. We've got our transition area, our keyers, tally lights. As I say, Kula comes from its bigger brother Kahuna, so it has basically inherited a lot of high-end features that you might not be used to in a smaller switcher, which can allow you to grow. The fact that it's 3 gig out the box, it can do 50, 5994, 60. So we're seeing a lot of these switches go into things like esports and replacing some last generation larger switches because of the incredible power it has. So don't just judge it by its size, just because it's 2RU. It packs a very big punch. So as Trevor said, we have in here up to 9 key layers per ME. So each of our keyers can do a two-way box. So I'm doing a two-way box, and I've got the ability to do an animated transition on top of that with a dedicated MAV trans. So that's 9 key layers on a single ME. And there's even larger switches out there on the market that can't do that kind of capability. And that's not even touching the 4 downstream keys yet. So that's our ability on 1 ME to be able to do up to 9 keys and transition between our sources that we have on there as well. So we can have each of those as a separate box, separate content, different color border, whatever you require on each of those keys. So that's just the power in one single ME. So if you have a 2 ME or 3 ME system, you'll be just multiplying that up available to it. So the sub MEs, as Trevor said, this is like a Swiss Army knife. It can change and develop for the kind of production you're doing if you're using it as a resource that changes what production is doing, or it helps you through transitioning through things like SD to HD, 1080i to 3 gig transitions through technology as well. So the next area we're going to talk about is the sub-ME. So when people sometimes think about a sub-ME or another smaller ME kind of capable resource, some people are surprised and think, oh, it won't have lots of programmable outputs, for example. So our standard ME has 6 programmable outputs. So you can have a program, preview, and various clean and dirty world feeds, etc., attached to each of those ME outputs. The sub-MEs still have 4 programmable outputs. So as you can see on this image here, that's the capability of my sub-ME. You can see in the large box at the bottom left. I've got a presenter, chroma keyed over the top of a background. I've got a 2-way box in the corner I can control. I can have simple macros to be able to control. And they've got perspective on there as well. So I've got a 2-way box with a presenter on this sub-ME. So that's an incredible amount of power. The reason we call it a sub-ME is because we can use that functionality to do different requirements depending on what your needs are. So if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, I've got the sub-ME with the 4 downstream keys over the top of that. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 boxes and a chroma key just on the sub-ME with downstream keys on the, attached on there as well. So those downstream keys, as you can see in the other 3 boxes, can be assigned to any output. They don't have to be on an ME output. They don't have to be on a sub-ME output. They can be on any output of the switcher. So I could drive 4 separate screens with a 2-way box on each without using any ME resource at all. So I think, as you said, it's got 32 key layers in total in the 2ME/3ME system. So really powerful, those sub-MEs. You know, they are like almost like a last generation ME in what they can do with the keys. As I said, all the keys in the system have linear, luma, and chroma key capability. We've got macros and effects, so you can, as I say, make nice simple transitions with whatever you're doing with single button pushes. Because it's also inherited the advanced macro system that we have in Kahuna. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the clip store. So this is the clip store inside Kahuna. It's 10 output channels, and they can be linked together as just key and fill, or they can be just general output channels. And inside of those channels, we can have up to 32 subclips. So that means actually instant access to 320 stills, clips, audio. It includes 8 channels of embedded audio in there as well for each of the store channels. So I've got background loops, I've got wipes, I've got video. We can grab inside the stores, so it's a fully capable system for grabbing external sources, grabbing internal cross points. We can edit inside the stores as well, so we can have edits in there for the store channels and crop them as we need to. As you say, it can be expanded now up to 32 gigabytes, which will give you 4 minutes of uncompressed HD video inside those stores. So really, really powerful capability of those store channels. Another key thing about those store channels is they're available to the whole mixer. So you haven't got to be tied to just an ME. Those store channels can be accessed across the whole mixer without limitation. So really, really powerful store channels. A nice big picture of the rear panel, just so you can have a nice closer look. It's got dual internal redundant power supplies. So they're integrated into the unit. They're not got blocks hanging out in the back of the rack. So nice and compact. Front to back airflow, which is really important if you're putting it in a fly pack or you've got a very small OB van. It runs extremely quietly. We've seen put them into the production area because they don't create a lot of noise with fans or anything to distract the environment. We've got GPIs and GPOs on there. We've got network connections connecting things like IP protocols for tallies. We've got RS422 connections over an RJ45 for machine control. So if you want to be using a spot box with it, you can attach that. 2 USB 3 ports for getting data in and out, also for backing up your files. Reference, we've got reference in and out. And yeah, just to highlight those bidirectional inputs. So as standard, it's 36 in on a 2ME system by 12 out, and then you've got 6 bidirectional. So that 6 bidirectional can take you up to 42 in or up to 18 out, and any combination in between. So you're not limited, you don't have to choose if they're ins or outs. Each one can be decided if you use them as an input or as an output. So that's just some clarity on the rear panel. The multi-viewer is a full bandwidth 1080p multi-viewer. Regardless if you're doing a 1080i production, it's a full broadcast resolution 1080p multi-viewer. It's fully customizable. You're not limited to a set number of layouts. You can configure any tile to be any size, shape you want. So in this combination, we've got different sizes of different things. And actually, I'm doing this whole demonstration just using the multi-viewer. The multi-viewer is changing all the images. So you can have over 100,000 different configurations of the multi-viewer for whatever your requirements are. We can have the UMDs inside or outside the active picture. That's quite important. We can actually have them outside, not distracted from the content. We can have tallies around the border. We can have tallies in our UMDs, and we can have box tallies in the corner as well. So it really is customizable. We can also label each of the boxes. So if we want to put...
You can change the size. You can put that.
Change the size.
The multi-viewer size.
Yep, so each of those tiles we can change the size of. So if I go into there, I can go into the multi-viewer. I can show you in the menu in a moment. I can go to my size and position. I can go into here and change the size and shape, whatever you want it to be, position it how you like. So it's completely however you want to have it. There's no real limitations in how you can customize your multi-viewer. As I say, with a simple recall, I can recall everything back to its previous state. So yeah, the multi-viewer is a really, really great feature. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the control panels. So we do everything from a 1ME 19-inch rack mount panel, a 1ME 16 button panel, 2ME 16 button panel, a 2ME 24 button panel, and then a 3ME 24 button panel. So whatever size, shape, or panel that fits your requirements, we hope we've got something to cover it. And if it doesn't, we can then add on additional Maverick modules. So there's the 1ME control panels. As I say, just a simple single network connection to connect it to the mainframe. The 2ME panels, so as I say, 24 button or a 16 button, whatever you need. And then the 3ME panels there as well. So all the panels that we have inside the system. So at the moment, we are connected to the Kula AV menu. So I'm going to take you through the menus. The menus are pretty similar. The only kind of difference we have inside the menus is in terms of audio, and also choosing if you're going to have 1ME or 2ME systems. So we'll show you that, and then we'll try and show you the Swiss Army knife effect of the Kula in there. So this is the GUI interface, and on here we have our menus down the left-hand side. So I can control my ME, my DSK. So just to note, this is the Kula AV we're looking at here, but we'll try and have a look at the Kula MSP and see if we can have a look at that for some of the other menus we have in there as well. So menus down the left-hand side, and it works in an L fashion. So if I select a menu, it then changes the sub-menu along the bottom here. So I can then choose what I'm going to choose within those menus. Along the bottom, we have an undo and a redo button, a normalize button to normalize all the effects on the screen. We have ability to copy values and copy MEs. And then we can navigate simply through the menus as well using our backwards and forwards buttons, just as you're doing a web browser. And go up will take you to the home screen as well. So nice simple menu structure to navigate through on there. If we go into, for example, the ME, this gives us all the things we need to set up our ME. So our keyer setup. Another note, we can see our keyers here. We have full priority control over our keyers. And that includes what we call the MAV transitions. That's the animated MAV trans or the clip transition. That's available there, and that can be anywhere inside that mix as well. So each of those keyers we can move up and down inside the mix, however we want to. As I say, all the keyers have a full key. So a full key, we mean we're not having just a full picture. We're not having to key through the picture. Linear keyer, luma keyer, chroma keyer, all the effects you'd expect on a large-scale production switcher. Each of them has DVE capability. So that's the main keyer setup. Then we can go through the chroma keyer. Very powerful chroma keyer, again inherited from its bigger brother, the Kahuna. So we have a basic menu. We can just select a simple color, red, green, blue, or we can add samples to get an exact chroma key for our system. We can then go into more advanced things like key adjustment, highlights and lowlights, clean the edges, remove any spill, and then even more advanced into things like key suppression and key refinement. So again, the full featured chroma key that you find on a high-end switcher. We've then got a mask capability on the keyers as well. So they can be a preset mask or a standard box mask on each of our keyers. I say the DVE capability, we can zoom, size, and change the position of each of the keyers. These can be set as a single tile, so that's producing one picture-in-picture from a keyer, or even in dual tile, so creating two boxes from a single keyer. Each of those with independent crop and border on there as well. So if you do a lot of productions that require lots of picture-in-pictures, Kula's great for that because we can create those 8 boxes just on the single ME. We also have color effects on there that we can control the RGB and YUV settings of each of those key buses. And this is available, as I say, you've got access to each of the keyers, 1 through 4, the MAV trans. So this will automatically, if you have an animated transition, flying key, you can select it here and it will automatically set to manual or auto where the transition will happen. So rather than having to make a complicated macro to be able to do your flying keys, you can actually let the Kula do it for you. Or if you want to tweak them and adjust them to your production requirements, then we can set our own offset transition time inside here. So really powerful, the fact that you can still have your animated transition without bounding up one of your regular keyers. We've also got utility buses available, so we can control any of the utility buses we have in this menu. So everything is nice and simply all under that 1 ME button. And when we have a look at the standard Kula, we'll have ME1, ME2, the sub-ME, and all the features we have available in there as well. So with a downstream key, this now gives you the ability of what we can do with our downstream keys. And these aren't limited either. These can have access to chroma keying, linear luma keying, and they've got DVE on them as well. So again, single tile or dual tile with all the crop and border for each of those keyers. So it's an incredible amount of resizing and DVE capability in a small switcher. Now at the moment we're looking at the Kula AV, so just quickly, as a side note for the Kula AV, we've got the audio option. So here I can see my 16 channels of audio coming in with monitoring, and I can monitor any of those things coming in, adjust the output levels, use audio transition types. So it's not just a simple crossfade. We can do V fades, we can do cut fades, however you want to do your audio capability. We can assign them into groups. So in the input groups, we can say which inputs will be in which group to help simplify your audio mixing. So a great feature. And then we can look at the input faders coming in for that as well. So here's our input faders, and then we can assign those to our groups. So proper audio capability inside there. And if I quickly just cut to here, here you can see the motorized audio faders we have on there. So if you're doing effects on here with different things, you can see the audio faders will move according to the function or the transition or the effect you're doing for that functionality. So it makes it really simple for a simple single operator control.
You need to show them on the cooler.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll pass the mouse over here on the moment. We'll go through some of those menus for that. So we'll just go have a look at Trevor's screen here. And the joys of a wireless mouse. So as you can see in Kula here, we have ME1 and ME3. So we talked about the fact that Kula is very much a Swiss Army knife. And one of the important things it can do on here is change how we configure it. So it's going to log off. So if I go into the configuration of it, here, if I have a 2ME or a 3ME Kula, I can run it as just an SDHD system. Or, as a nice future-proof aspect to it, I can run it as a 1ME UHD system, just with a click of a button. I don't even have to reboot the system. And that will convert that to a UHD system with 2 channels of format conversion. It's very important that these are channels of conversion. So that could be 2 inputs, 1 input, 1 output, or 2 outputs, depending how you want to use it. It's completely how you want to use it for your functionality. So in SD, we have the option. So this is a 2ME system. We can run it with 2 sub-MEs. So we can have it with 2 sub-MEs. That's 2 MEs with 2 sub-MEs. Or we can run it as a 2ME with the sub-MEs turned into a 3rd ME. So again, it becomes invisible to the operator. They can see the functionality they have as a 3ME switcher if they choose to. That works better for their production. So you can think of it as a 2ME plus 2 additional sub-MEs. If I run that as ME3, I can also then choose to run my 2nd ME as that 2nd multi-viewer. So it really is a Swiss Army knife that, depending on the production you're doing or where you are in your workflow, what requirements you need. And sometimes customers say, well, why is it like this? And if you think, if you're going through an SD to HD transition, or you're mixing 1080i and 1080p, we can have this set to format fusion, which is great. But then in a couple of years' time, you might have actually finished having, you might be fully up to 1080i, you have no SD left in the building. You're left with a resource you're not able to use because you're not needing to do any format conversion. But with this great functionality, we can switch these over now to be additional ME power. And they do frame synchronization, color correction, if you're using them for format conversion, or we have them with the MEs with the 2 keys, the 2.5D DVE, you'll be using them as our 7Es. So the system can grow with you and develop to the kind of productions you're doing it. And as I say, if you're using this equipment to provide it to different clients on different productions, you've got that flexibility to provide them with what they need. So if you need a 28-tile multi-viewer and you still need a 2ME system, you can run it in this mode. So it's really useful in how you can run. Yeah. So this is what we're running at the moment is MSP. And in MSP, basically we have a number of different functions available. So we have the standard GUI. If I log into it, is it this one? Yeah. So log in. Oh.
Log in the bottom.
I'll log into this one. So in here we have a couple of different features. We have MSP is our Maverick soft panel. And this means we can run the control panel from a PC without the need for a traditional hardware panel or side by side with a hard panel. So we can use it as a 2nd operator position. We can use it for doing additional functionality. And it has a couple of different elements that we can use on it. So it has our main GUI, and it's a full-featured GUI. So it has all the menus that we're used to seeing in our main Kahuna. And then also have the option to have a virtual control panel as well. So this gives us the ability to be able to cut sources directly from a software panel, have access to the transition area, do cuts, mixes, wipes, control them, have access to our macro buttons. So we have a very advanced macro system. We can have access to all our macro buttons here. And we've also got a key control area on here as well, plus access to our downstream keys. So again, this is a nice alternative. You haven't got the space or the budget for a hardware panel. you can run it with a software panel that will give you the functionality you
You can
need.
show them the funk pad on the Kula MSP that's coming on Kula.
Okay.
Close that down.
Close. So we're going to Kahuna MSP. So one of the functions we have on here is to be able to run a simple version.
This is coming on Kula, that's why I'm
So
showing it.
it's coming on Kula. As I say, it's already come into the Big Brother Kahuna, and it will now trickle down into to this. And if I go into here, I have the option, rather than having a virtual panel, I can have what we call the funk pad. So we set this to be funk pad, set the mode to be funk pad. We'll now restart it. So we're going to log into the system. And now under here, I've got this. So this is a completely customized control panel. Now this is great for environments where you might not have a traditional TD, who maybe you need to just do very simple operation. You can create just a simple program preview row. In this stage, we've got 5 different sources. You can have 6 different sources. Build as many buttons as you need. A nice simple cut button. So if I want to transition between sources, I can have a cut button. I've got an auto transition button in there as well. So I can do that. And I can also got access to macros in there as well. So I've got macros available. And to build these buttons, it's very simple. You come on here, push add, and you get a button. And you can attach a macro to that button simply by going in here, putting in the number or the value you want, and that will put the macro onto the button. If you don't want the macro on there, you can just throw it off the screen. So if we go back now to, switch back to our other screen, we'll go through some of the other menus in Kula. So Kula has also inherited the very advanced effect system. So we have DMEMs, which are basically district memories, and we've got GMEMs as well. I won't go into depth on these. I will say online, if you go onto YouTube on the Grass Valley website, you can see videos that explain a lot of these operational features. So DMEMs are just district memories. They look after 1 ME or 1 sub-ME. And we've got GMEMs, which are global memories. So anything that looks after more than 1 ME in the system. The macro system, I think, is one of the most advanced I've ever seen on a switcher. You can run multiple macros at the same time. So even like 100 different macros all running at the same time. We can record them in real time. We can have macros inside of macros. And we can also create things that basically you can run multiple functions in the same frame instantly. So I can recall a store, play the store, and turn keys on and off, all inside a single frame. I'm not having to put lots of delay in there to give the switcher time to process it. It can actually do multiple functions in a single instance. So with the macro system, we can record it as we need to. So we can just press macro record, and it will record the functions we put into it in real time. We can move things up and down inside it. So if we need to move commands inside, we can stop recording, edit the macro, move different things up and down inside the macro. We can change the delegation of any of the parameters we have inside it. And the way the macro system works, it works in a work buffer. So think of it like a whiteboard. You can create your macro, modify it, and then save it into one of our files. So you can make multiple macros very quickly just by editing a parameter, save it into a different file, edit it, save it into a different file. It means you can create, tens, hundreds of different macros very, very quickly. All of our macros can have a bitmap, so we can create a picture that connects what it is with a library of different graphics to make it simple for the operator to be able to see what they have on there. And we can assign it to pretty much any button on the panel as well. So you're not limited to just attaching things to macro buttons. We have multiple macro buttons on the panel. We have a row here that can be delegated with basically 3 pages of different macro buttons. So I can assign different macros onto buttons up here. So I've got 3 pages of macro buttons up there I can access on the panel. I've also got 8 pages of macros on this pad here as well. So I've got macro available here and macro available there, but I can attach macros to any button on the panel. Going back to the menus, we've got, as I say, our store menu. So we've got a 1 terabyte hard disk, and that 1 terabyte hard disk, you can store thousands and thousands of files on there. And then we've got our 16 or 32 gigabytes of RAM. So with 32 or 16 gigabytes of RAM, we can have that all instant access. We can load in real-time HD video. So if you're loading from the hard disk into the RAM, it's nice and quick to be able to do that from the hard disk into the RAM.
A couple of questions on the clip store.
Okay, fire away.
One is, how can we see what storage is left? The other one is, can we grab into the stores?
Yep. So very simple, and actually I can answer both those questions by pushing the grab button. So if I go to the grab button, I can see how much free space is available. So again, it has a very advanced system if you want to use it, where you can assign a different amount of storage to each file, to each store channel, or you can allow the store channels to just share all the same amount of space, like a big bucket of resource. So you choose if you want to control it, or you leave it unrestricted. If you want to set a certain amount of space per store, you can do that. If you want to reserve a certain amount of space on a store, you can do that as well. So if I go to the grab menu, at the moment I can see I've got 67% available inside the store. And I can grab from anywhere inside the switcher. So if I go to the grab crosspoint menu, I can grab from the inputs coming in. I can also grab from my ME outputs as well. So if I want to grab from an output of my ME, I can grab from the stores. So you're not just limited to inputs, you can grab from internal crosspoints as well. So full availability to grab any of the crosspoints coming into the switcher. You can choose whether to grab video and audio, or just audio on its own. And you'll see the 8 channels of embedded audio coming through. And as I say, you can grab directly into the RAM, so it's instantly available. And then you have the option also to then save it from the RAM back onto the hard disk if you want to use it again. You can create, as I said, the subclips is a very powerful feature in here. That if I choose the store, for example, so if we choose store number 1, for example, I can grab a single frame of video. I can do a latching grab, which will continuously grab until I click the button again. So that's grabbing into the store. You can see the amount of free space going down. They can stop grabbing. So that grabs in that clip into the RAM. It's that quick. It's that easy. Or I can press and hold the grab button. And that will grab for as long as I press the button for. So when I let go, it stops recording. That's more for like trying to grab precise video. Now, once you've grabbed your video, you've then got the ability to edit it as well. So I can go in here, I can go to edit mode, and I can mark an in and out position. So if I'm going to go to my position of the video, I can click on here and say, right, where's my in point going to be? Mark my in point, mark my out point, and then I can go through and assign what I want to do with it. Once I'm happy, I can edit the audio as well. I can press edit audio, and that will do that and make my clip the size that I need it to be. So you can jog through frame by frame. Once you've made a clip, you can loop it, you can ping pong it, you can advance through multiple subclips. So as I said, if we go to grab, and I do insert to end, I can grab multiple clips inside it. So there's one clip, there's another clip. You'll see on here that it will start increasing the number of clips we have inside it, 4, 5, 6, and I can actually grab up to 32. Believe me on that, I won't sit here and do it for you. So now I can see all my clips. If I look at the contents, I can see the outputs of my store channels. So the outputs of my store channel, I can see each of these clips I've created. And these are all instantly available. So they're not taking any time to load. I can access any of these instantaneously from that clip store channel. So as I said, 10 channels, you can have up to 32 clips in each channel. And inside there I can see the format of the video, how much audio there is, and the standard it's working in as well. So really, really powerful for the stores. As I said, there's 10 channels. You choose if they're just output channels, or you're going to have key and fill on there as well. So if you want to have a fill, you just assign a key, an additional store to be a key store. There's no restriction.
Can you macro it to pause at the end of each subclip?
Well, it will just play the clip. So basically what I would do if I was building a macro is that when I do the play, I would leave the clip advance off. So all it will do is play the subclip that I have selected. So if I actually go to subclip 3 and I have clip advance turned off, I can press play and it will just play that subclip. So I don't even have to put a pause in there. If you make a long sequence, you can put a pause in. You can stop the video as you need to within the macro. So if you've got one long clip, you want to stop different points within the macro, you can just put stop and then press play again when you need to. If you want the clips to play without having to go to the next subclip, you press play, it will play that clip, then it will play the next clip, you'll see the subclip it's playing. And if you do a loop, it will carry them all along in that loop, so it will continuously play each of those clips around in a loop.
You could build a macro and play one after another with a pause in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was a question earlier asking about tally.
Tally? Yeah. So in terms of tally, we can just easily assign that to an output.
And also protocols, whether they're on robotic cameras.
So we're happy with this store setup. We've got the user configuration. This looks after basically how we make clean feeds. So we can assign any keyer to any output. We're not restricted. We can take the clean feed from anywhere with any combination. So if I want to turn key 2 off and key 4 off on one output, we can do that. We're not limited like some other small mixers with where you take the clean feed from. So if I want to make a feed that's only got that keyer off it, that's no problem. It's just a matrix of outputs we have on there. So the question was about tallies. So if we go to protocols, so as I say, Kahuna has given us all the kind of protocols that we have in a very large high-end production switcher. So to add a tally protocol, we can either do it over GPIOs or we can just do it over a protocol here. So I can attach the protocol, press load, and in here I've got the option if I'm doing it over RS422 or I'm doing it over IP. So all the standard kind of tally protocols, TSL, UMD, GVG, Philips, MPK protocols are available in there. I think the next question we had, I'll just run through the other protocols we have. We have protocols to control the upstream routers. This can be very useful if you want to expand the number of inputs, or you just want to control an external router to your system. We've got playout protocols. So as Trevor said, we just give it the name of the protocol. So it could be controlling an EVS, a live touch, whatever the protocol is required for it. We've got pretty much all the standard protocols in there, AMP, VDCP, P-bus, if you want to control a spot box in there, all available. And all you do is just load that protocol, set the requirements of it, whether it's over IP. So you go to configure, is it over RS422 or is it over IP? You choose, press apply, and then you set up that protocol you need. Editor protocols, we can run Kula under automation, whether it's Ignite, whether it's Mozart, whatever requirement. Again, the protocols required for automation are all found in here.
Does it have a protocol for GV camera and MCP for Ethernet tally?
So we've got GV LDK camera protocol.
There's tally work done very recently over IP on GV cameras.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in Kula or Kula. Do a quick look at the protocols on GV cameras.
I think the GV camera control is more for filters and access like that. I think we had this question last time, just to work out what tally protocol they take. We'll have to talk to the camera team.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that.
But generally, protocols get added as the demand for them comes up. So at the moment, the protocols we've got for kind of robotic cameras, we've got Shotoku and Visca in there. So again, once we've loaded a protocol, we can then go to our peripherals menu and we can go into, say, for example, Visca Robotics, and you've got all the zoom, iris up, iris down for the camera control in here. We can, attach our joystick to control the pan, tilt, and zoom for the cameras. Just to go through some of the other protocols we have in there as well. So we can go to audio mixers as well. So we've got things like solid state logic, Yamaha, Calrec, where we can actually have audio faders, and we can attach that same Maverick audio module that we see in here. We can have attached to the regular Kula to controlling an external audio mixer. So again, or you can just have a soft panel here and do audio follows video. Now, obviously, then the external mixer is looking after the audio side of it with that. So to go back to our protocols, as I say, audio protocols in there. We've got Ember Plus as well. So we've also got options for controlling macros, and we can control one switcher to another. So all the protocols we're used to seeing in a large, normally expensive production switcher, we've got included in Kula as well. Now, just to say, all these protocols are included as standard. There's no additional options to these protocols. The only option in Kula is the MSP. So have the MSP available. That's the additional thing. Let's carry on through. So we've got our store set up, our aux set up, so we can control which downstream keys go on which outputs. As we say, they're completely separate. They can go on any output. We've got things like resource linking. We've got modulators, GPOs, cross-point mapping, so we can do things like source patching for inputs in there. Advanced things like key drop, as I say, we can do advanced things. We can do effects dissolve, and we have 8 presets for effects dissolve. And then this is the multi-viewer menu. So this is where we can change the setup of our multi-viewer. We give you some predefined layouts to start with, but that's just a kind of starting point. We can then choose on there the size, shape, position, box, tally, the luminance of the borders. It is a fully configurable multi-viewer. It also has an option for K-Touch. I think if you're on the Grass Valley website, there's a little video you can see on K-Touch and how we can integrate a touchscreen panel with the multi-viewer. So that's our user configuration. We've then got our engineering configuration. So this looks after our inputs. So we can see the inputs coming in. We can see if actually any videos on them. We can see the timing of the inputs. And we can see the standards. We can do the same on the outputs. So we can assign the outputs. The multi-viewer outputs aren't fixed. You can assign the multi-viewer outputs to any of the physical BNC outputs. You're not limited to which outputs they come out of. So they're not fixed. So you can use the outputs for the standard outputs, or you can use them for multi-viewer outputs. So real flexibility in how you assign them. You can choose how many downstream keys you want to use. And this is also where we set up our bidirectional mode. So we can use our bidirectional inputs to be inputs, or we can choose them to be outputs as we need to. This is where we assign our tallies. So for each output, we can assign a tally. So this is quite important. If we want to have tallies just for our multi-viewer and our UMDs and our panel, we might also want to set up tallies for things like ISO recordings or outputs that might be used for a big screen. So any of these outputs can assign a now, next, or one of up to 8 ISO tallies to do. So all of this is basically just put into the protocol and is picked up by what's managing your tallies in your tally system, whether it's your multi-viewer or a tally man or something like that. So you assign each of the outputs which is providing tally information. So that will decide if you're going to use any different colors. Your tally system will choose the colors inside that. This will just tell the protocol which ones it wants contributing to the output. System configuration, as I say, this does a wealth of different formats. So if you're looking at doing things in level A, level B, SD, HD, 1080p, 3 gig, it's all available there as standard. You haven't got to do it. And if you're doing a production one day in HD and the next day you're doing a 3 gig 60p production for something like gaming, it's as simple as selecting the format and pressing apply standard. It doesn't even reboot the system. It's all available there instantly. Available there. So we've got all GPOs as well. So if you want to use physical GPOs, for driving external devices, tallies, triggering other devices. All of that's available in there, all configurable. There's real ones, and we also have internal GPOs for making more complex effects in there as well. Just to say, the Kula and the Kahuna can be on separate networks. Quite a hot topic at the moment is remote production. So we can actually set up IP gateways. So you can have the panel in one side of the country and the mainframe in a different side of the country, or even in different continents. So you've got full capability. The same as controlling other devices, they haven't got to be in the same room, the same building, the same state as your switcher. They can be talking across networks globally for that as well. So, you know, it's a big thing with remote production. But for Kahuna and Kula, it's been going on for decades because it's just an IP protocol that we're controlling over. We've done the protocols. We've got a full status monitor page, so we can monitor devices inside the system. This can be used for logging and seeing messages. We can see the devices inside the system and how they're running. And then the format fusion, this is where we can assign our channels. It's important to call them channels because they can be assigned to inputs, outputs, or buses. So if we turn it into bus mode, I can actually frame synchronize, format convert, and color correct whole input. So we'll just choose whatever bus we want to have. And we can go to the pop-up. If I want to assign every input that's going on the background bus to be frame synchronized and format converted, it's very simple to assign that to the whole bus. So you can have up to 8 channels of format conversion on there as well. So the shortcuts will take you to things like the save pad for saving your memories. There's a traditional number pad if you're used to the last generation Kahuna and the number pad we have in there. We've kept that in there. We've got soft buttons for the transition control, and we've got things like the cross point buttons as well. So you can actually control the switcher from these soft buttons in there as well. So I think, is there any questions?
I've been answering questions going along, but yeah, I think done a pretty good job in talking for an hour or more. Got any burning questions you'd like to ask before we Jonathan takes a bit of a break? Far away. Otherwise, I think you've done a good job of covering everything.
That was a very brief overview.
Yeah.
As I said, there are online training videos, or if you want to book training, you can book training for it as well.
It's Jonathan in the flesh. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. If you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. And, have a great weekend. Thanks very much.